Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. We start our video with a story in which Crazy Karen did a lot of illegal things and was generally a pain in the butt for her neighbors, but it didn't last long as the patience of the neighbors ran out. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. You believe residents should get priority over street parking? Okay, no problem. I live on a cul-de-sac where I rent a back house from my landlords. There's another elderly tenant who lived inside the landlord's house I was very close with that we'll call Good Sir. I have these neighbors next to me who'd gotten along with us for as long as I'd lived here before the pandemic. The husband, we'll call him Mr. Chill, especially has been cool with me. My neighbors have 3 cars between them, 2 belong to Mr. Chill, and the wife, we'll call her Mrs. Hypocrite, and the other belongs to their daughter. We'll call her the Hog. When the pandemic hit, Mr. Chill's family, for reasons that didn't make sense to me, suddenly stopped parking their cars in the driveway and would park them all on the curb in front of their house, as well as the Hog taking the spot I usually parked in, more so than her parents did. Finally, after a few months of this going on, I see the Hog outside and I ask her if she wouldn't mind sharing the spot I used to park at, with me explaining my situation with me being overworked and exhausted from my job. She gives me an annoyed look and just responds by saying, "I use it." I realize I'm wasting my time, tell her never mind and go inside. Not even 5 minutes later, there's a knock at the door, and it's Good Sir letting me know that the neighbors want to talk with me. Mrs. Hypocrite is standing there all pissed looking, asking me what the problem is. I explained to Mrs. Hypocrite what I said to the Hog, and she apologizes for coming off so angry and says, "You know, street parking is what it is. It's first come, first serve. And we're not parking to try and give anyone a hard time." The conversation goes nowhere, but we end it peacefully. About a week later, I'm parked in my spot for a change, and my girlfriend comes over to visit with our child. It's summertime, and it's hot. Towards the evening, I get a knock on the door, and it's Good Sir. He says the neighbors want to talk, and I see Mr. Chill standing right there, and he just asks if my girlfriend could move her car because she's got a bunch of curb behind her car, but not enough for another car to fit. Before I can even say anything, Mrs. Hypocrite shows up out of nowhere and says, "I'm sick of going back and forth about this. She's double parked, and there's not enough room for another car to fit. I understand that she's your girlfriend and she's visiting, but I believe that residents should get priority parking first. It looks like you guys are trying to save the parking for yourselves, and I'm not dealing with this anymore. She needs to move her car." I'm in complete shock and have a lot I wanted to say, but I don't, and I just go inside to ask my girlfriend to move. She thinks they're hypocrites and moves just because she feels like that's all they have to feel proud of in their lives. The only reason I gave in to them is just so my landlords do not get involved and risk it turning into them not wanting to renew my lease with me. Otherwise, I would have said something. Funny enough, even though they got PO'd at my girlfriend for double parking, the Hog is the queen of doing that on our cul-de-sac without Mrs. Hypocrite telling her anything. Last year in November, Good Sir wasn't doing too well and went into hospice care, eventually passing away. He gave me his car as a gift, and thank you for being family to him. I now had 2 cars, 2 spots, and an idea. Mrs. Hypocrite said that street parking is first come, first serve, and that residents should have priority over the parking. Well then, so be it. I only need to use 1 car, and the other can just stay parked. Since I'm a resident, I decided to park whichever car I'm not using in the spot that I would normally park at, and swap them out every 2 weeks in rotation. My girlfriend parks where Good Sir used to. The Hog, her boyfriend, and Mrs. Hypocrite have not touched that spot since I started doing this, since one of my 2 cars is always there. As a little bonus too, Mrs. Hypocrite put one of their cars they aren't using back in the driveway, and when there's a party going on and all the parking is taken up, the spot in front of their house is sometimes open, and since, again, I'm a resident and the guests have taken all the other spots, well, I guess I do need a spot to park at after all, right? Sorry, Mrs. Hypocrite, and/or the Hog. I guess you'll just have to park around the block and take a nice walk to get to your house. I'm only following what you believe the parking rules should be. Rest in peace, Good Sir. I miss you every single day. I'll always love you as my own family. Good for you for reminding them what the rules truly are. And our second story. Sketchy landlord learns expensive lesson. I wasn't the tenant in this story, but it was a former roommate of mine, and I had a front row seat to the events. So my friend, let's call him Paul, returned to my city after living out of state for a year or so. He needed a place to stay while he got himself set up with a job and new apartment. I had a spare bedroom, so I offered it to him for a cheap price. That way he could be month to month and just move out when he was ready. He probably stayed with me for about 6 months, found a new job, saved up some cash, and signed a lease on a new apartment. Everything seemed fine. Paul liked his new studio apartment in a large apartment building. It wasn't far from work, near transportation, and in an area where he had other friends. Great. He got all moved in and seemed to be set. Until he realized the apartment had bed bugs. He wasn't there a week before he started finding bed bugs and bed bug bites, of course. So he did what anyone would do. He contacted the landlord's office to report the problem and ask about solutions. The office claimed they had no other reports of bed bugs. They had no idea what he was talking about. Maybe he already had bed bugs when he moved in. You get the idea. Well, Paul knew they were lying, so he started talking to the neighbors on his corridor. And of course, he found others were also dealing with bed bugs and that the landlord had given them the same bullcrap responses. So Paul decided to do a bit of research and see what options the tenants had. Turns out they could easily report the problem to the city inspectors, and the more reports they got from the same address, the more likely they were to prioritize sending someone to inspect the building. Paul put together the info for reporting with suggestions for what to mention and asked his neighbors to make reports. Some of them must have followed through because it wasn't long before Paul was contacted about the issue. He had bagged up all of his stuff and returned to my house, but still had the lease and keys for the place. He met the inspector at the building and showed her his apartment. It was clearly infested, and there were signs in the hallway. The inspector turned out to be a young woman who was very dedicated to her job. She told the landlord it was their responsibility to cure the infestation. The landlord wanted to bring in his usual exterminator to treat the apartment and hallway. They tried that, but it didn't fix the issue. The inspector eventually insisted that they tear out the carpet and sections of flooring where the infestation seemed to be centered. By now, the inspector had seen that multiple units were affected, so the costs were mounting. She also discovered that the building hadn't had a proper inspection in years. The landlord was dodging her and didn't want to set up a time for her to do a full inspection. Of course. LOL. Well, after he negotiated to get out of his lease, Paul gave the inspector the punch code to the front door and pointed out several things he thought the landlord was hiding, including bed bugs on other floors, malfunctioning elevator, old fire extinguishers, illegal basement-level units, improperly stored building supplies, tripping hazard floor and laundry room, damaged walls and corridors. The inspector called Paul and let him know she'd returned to the building on a couple of occasions. Once she was meeting with the building manager, she let herself in a little early and walked up onto the manager, trash-talking her and saying how he didn't want to be bothered. The family-owned firm that owned the building had several large apartment buildings in the area, and the inspector intended to visit them all. She had already found tens of thousands in repairs for Paul's building that she was insisting the owner make ASAP. Given how they were operating, I'm sure all of their buildings were in a similar state. They made an expensive mistake when they tried to ignore Paul. Damn. Sounds like it may be cheaper to just burn it down and rebuild. At least the fire would get rid of the bed bugs. And our last story. Actually, I'm the owner. Okay, so backstory. I'm young, like I just turned 18 young, and me and my mother own this business where we breed and sell snakes and the snake's necessities along with food. I'm the actual founder while my mom is the co-founder. Story. I was tending the store since only me and my mom worked there. It was a slow day for us, so I was checking on the animals, feeding the ones that needed fed, and so on. This one person, we'll call them Entitled Parent, EP. I'm me. EP comes in and is just looking at all the animals, and I thought nothing of it until about 5 minutes or so go by, and they walk up to the counter, and ET snaps at me to get my attention. I look up, slightly offended by how EP decided to grab my attention. Me. Yes, may I help you? EP, yes, I was wondering how much this one, while pointing at a tank, is. Me, I'm not sure, let me check, I say while walking to the tank. Well, it says here it's only $60. EP, $60? Just a couple days ago I saw this exact one for only $30. Me, no, I'm sorry, that one sold already and we changed it out. EP, you can't just change the price because it's a different one. It's the same breed and everything. Me, well, yes, while it's the same breed, it's bigger than the other one, and the other one was younger than this one. So it cost us more to maintain this particular one than the last. EP, well, I don't have that much. Can you give me a discount? Me, I'm sorry, but I can't do that for you. EP, please, I only have 50 on me. Me, well, I can't give you a discount, but we do have some that are smaller than this and are cheaper. They're in the back if you want me to go bring you one out. EP, no, I don't want another one. I want this one. Me, well, I'm sorry, I can't lower the price for this one. Like I said just a few seconds ago, we have more in the back if you want this particular breed. EP, I don't effing want a different one. I would like this one. Me, please watch your language. There's a kid nearby. EP, I don't care. I want to buy this effing animal. Me, I'm sorry, I can't help you. EP, let me speak to the manager. Me, well, I am the manager. EP, I'm going to call the owner. Me, actually, I am the owner also. EP, don't lie to me. You're not even old enough to own a car, let alone a store. Me, yes, I am old enough, and I am the owner. My mom's the co-owner. EP, quit effing lying to me, B-word. I want to speak to the actual effing owner and not some smart butt teen. Me, please watch what you say, or I'm going to have to ask you to leave. EP, you can't kick me out. I know the real owner, and he lets me get a discount. I get it all the time. Me, well, that's good for you now. If you're not going to buy this one and only cause a disturbance in my store, I'm going to ask you to leave. EP, no, I'm not going to leave. You're going to give me a discount, and now I'm getting mad because EP is yelling and cussing at me when I can't change the price and is making a scene over it, just straight out ignoring me. So sell it to me now, or I will call the owner and he will sell it to me. She then walked over to the counter where the cards are with my name and number. EP then dialed the number, then answered the phone at first. I was confused because it states on the card that I'm the owner, but then I remembered it had my mom's number also on the card, and EP actually called hers instead. Luckily, my mom told EP to F off pretty much, and then EP tried to call the other number instead. While EP was dialing my number, EP had this crap-eating grin on their face, looking me dead in the eyes. I'll never forget the look on EP's face when I answered the phone. Me, hello, this is name of shop, my name speaking. How can I help you? EP hung up and left the store immediately. What I'll never understand is why EP got so upset about that animal. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.